Good afternoon, Mr. Guest. How are you?
Very mysterious is what I am. I'm actually hiding in the shadows wearing a cloak right now. That's how mysterious I am.
Oh, this voice is familiar. What was the last thing you
I've heard
posted
this
on
voice.
social media?
Pardon me?
The last thing you posted on social media was what?
A picture today on Instagram, a black and white photo on Instagram.
Of what?
About an hour ago. Well, I can't tell you of what because then that would give it away.
This voice is so familiar.
Yeah, I've heard this voice before.
Are you a New Yorker? Hello?
The picture I posted was of me and my gang, my crew.
Your
Is this
crew.
Seth Davis?
What's that?
Is this Seth Davis?
No, they...
Nope.
No? Okay.
Nope. Far more cool than Seth Davis.
Whoa.
Okay. Are you in wrestling?
Yes.
Oh, you're in wrestling. Moose, good pull. Are you a wrestler? Is this The
Am I
Miz?
what?
Is this
my
The
God.
Miz?
I'm hanging up right now. If I was The Miz, I would sound like this. I was The Miz.
Do you work for the WWE?
No. I used to, though.
Is this Chris Jericho?
Nailed it.
Yes!
There
Are
you
serious?
go.
This is Chris Jericho? Amazing. Chris, how
You
are
got
you?
Very quick.
Chris,
very
how you
quick.
doing, man?
I'm doing good. This is a fun segment. I'm just going to take off my dark cloak here since I'm not mysterious anymore since I've been revealed. Yeah, doing good here in the in the lockdown, but hopefully things are opening up fairly soon. But been pretty busy as it is every week, working lots of stuff from home. So it hasn't been too bad for me.
Chris
Jericho.
This is
A
awesome.
legendary wrestler, no doubt. And how is Chris, when you look at it, how is and AEW has been fantastic. How has it been the transition to what to the new wrestling form and to the new wrestling entity?
It's been great. I mean, obviously, it was a little bit of uncharted waters when we first started. We had never, there hadn't been a company to give fans an option in like 20 years since WCW closed back in the early 2000s. So we all took a chance, and we had a pretty great foothold right off the bat. And the cool thing is, right before the lockdown happened, we were actually coming to New Jersey to the Prudential Center, and we had a sold-out show. And we were like, if we could just make it to March 25th and do this show before the lockdown, and we almost got there. I think we everything shut down kind of on March 11th. So we had a great fan base in New York right off the bat because that show sold out very quickly, just to show how well we have connected with the audiences in a short period of time. So we're continuing that, and hopefully we'll be back, all across America, but more specifically in the New York market as soon as everything opens up again.
Yeah, and Chris, we're seeing that it was rescheduled for July 22nd, and that's great. We hope that by then, things are a little bit more normal. And, I've been lucky enough to interview a couple times when I worked at Sports Illustrated, and when I saw you joined AEW, and then you came out with Le Champion, I'm always marvel, Chris, at how you're able to reinvent yourself all the time. You always keep it something new. You're always looking for different angles. How'd you come up with Le Champion? What inspired that?
I think it's one of those things to constantly, come up with new stuff. You just have to commit to it. And when I won the championship, I thought, well, I'm just going to start calling myself Le Champion. Why? I don't know. I mean, I'm from Canada. I don't speak French worth a damn, so it's not like I'm fluent or anything, but I just thought it's a pretty pretentious thing to call myself. But when you say it straight and say it with conviction, I'm Le Champion, then everyone else just starts calling you Le Champion. And the funny thing is, about in February, I started wearing a bandana around my neck. We printed up a Le Champion bandana or whatever, just because I thought it kind of looks cool in the ring and something kind of different to wear during a match. Fast forward now during the pandemic, the Le Champion bandanas are the number one seller for all of our merch because everyone's buying them to use as masks. So they're like, Jericho, you're so smart. I'm like, I'm not smart. I just stupid timing. I was ahead of the curve, man. So like I said, a lot of it's commitment and then just good timing.
Chris, AEW, the connection, the rawness, kind of getting back to what defined, wrestling. Is that the reason why you think, AEW, and not only you have to have the talent yourself, I mean, there's a lot of talented men and women that wrestle in AEW, but why do you think it's connected as quickly as it has with the wrestling audience?
Because by design, we wanted to be different from every other companies. More specifically, obviously, the WWE is hugely successful, worldwide, massive, and they do things a certain way, and that's great. We do things a completely different way, and that's let the professionals be professional. There's no writers in AEW. There's nobody kind of overseeing what you do and kind of nitpicking everything. We just basically have ideas of what we want to say and ideas of what we want to do and just go out there and do it. If you're talking about an in-ring promo or a backstage vignette. And, even now during this lockdown, we're producing content from home. We produce it, we edit it, we send it in, and we put it on the air. It doesn't have to be analyzed and kind of second-guessed because that's where the true creativity comes from the person. And you don't want to interrupt anybody's creative flow. And I think people can see that. It's just a little bit more organic, the way we do things, and it's a little bit more real, I would say. And that's resonating with the fan base, all across the world, which is why we've been a success right out of the gates.
Yeah, Chris, you guys have on TNT tonight at 8 p.m. The show will be on and encourage everyone to check it out, but I know your audience is huge and people are going to be there for you. Was that a little bit, I don't want to put words in your mouth, I mean, was it stifling a little at the end with WWE? Like, did you feel like that they didn't trust you, even though you've been, a champion for them and you'd been like a good employee for them? Did you feel like they didn't trust you, like with your own thoughts on storylines?
No, not at all. The opposite. I had a lot of trust in WWE, and I had a lot of creative freedom. But it just, when I went to AEW, it was just a whole new world. And it was really, to be honest with you, it was a real kind of reigniting the fire. I always had passion, but to start out with AEW, completely brand new company, uncharted waters. I mean, nobody had ever done this before. I mean, lots of wrestling companies have come and gone, but they start small and they grow or they don't. Our very first show was in front of 14,000 people in Washington, D.C. on one of the top cable networks in the world. So right out of the gate, you better be good if that many people are watching, because if you come out 2-3 weeks and it's not great, you're going straight down and you might never come back. So there was a lot of pressure there, and also basically an untapped roster of guys that had been huge stars around the world that were very, very good at their craft but had never been exposed really in the United States, which is great when you're able to build people and stars. But right off the bat, fans are watching going, we don't know who these guys are. That's why it was so important to have me involved, because then you go, okay, well, at least Chris Jericho's there. We know him. Let's check this out and see what it's all about. And then suddenly you go, oh, my gosh, there's the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and Cody Rhodes. We remember him, but we've never seen him like this before, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then, of course, we were able to build, the Inner Circle and Darby Allin and Jungle Boy and MJF. And suddenly, 8 months in, we have a whole roster of very fresh, very popular stars. And that's what you have to do to build a wrestling company. And we knew we had to do it quickly. And we did. So that's why we're able to be at this position that we're at today.
Chris, how did it feel to be the first ever, AEW heavyweight champ and celebrating it with a glass of champagne, which I understand now you sell, right, Chris?
A little bit of the bubbly. Yeah. It's so funny. We were doing a backstage vignette where I was coming through to my dressing room after I won the championship, and then I was supposed to come in as like this whole spread and kind of comment on it, the big championship spread. But when I came in, it was like, 3 pieces of salami and an onion and a cracker. And I was like, what is all this stuff? So I just started riffing and making little jokes. And then I saw, the champagne in the bucket and said, oh, there's a little bit of the bubbly. And I said it. And then suddenly the next day, somebody made a video, a meme of that song, Mambo Number 5. And it was like, a little bit of the bubbly in my heart, a little bit of the bubbly in my mind. So then I thought, well, that's pretty funny. I'll just post it and see if other people want to join in. And suddenly I had literally hundreds of these videos being made. So I thought, well, if it's so popular, let's start creating our own version of a little bit of the bubbly. I think we sold like 27,000 bottles of them so far. So people like stuff like that, you know? They like being a part of it.
That's great.
Oh man, it is. I thought Le Champion, like it's just it's an easy thing, you know. It's just fun. It's an easy thing to say. It's an easy character, like, but it's kind of brilliant too. And you know, Chris, because we're here, we're a sports station. I know you're a big sports fan. Working now for Tony Khan, who's owner. His father owns the Jaguars. I mean, you talk football with him, or what's that like? Working for an NFL owner.
Well, I've learned a lot about football over the last few years. My wife's a huge fan. My son is a huge fan. I'm obviously working for the Khan family. And the one thing I love about it is the Khan family treats the AEW performers as athletes, like they would their football team or their soccer team, football as you would call it in London, in the UK. And it's not, they're not dealing with wrestlers, they're dealing with athletes. And you can tell just this is a football family. And it's really cool. I mean, one of the best things about working for the Khans is just the treatment, like I mentioned, and the way that they deal with me and all that sort of stuff. So and also standing on the sidelines for the Jacksonville Jaguar games are great, or at the Vikings games. My wife's a big Vikings fan, so it's like, hey Tony, can you get us a ticket to the game in Minnesota? We went last year, and you're on the sidelines, so I get to be the big baller taking my son and my wife on the field like a hot shot. So it's really cool, man. They're a great family to work for, and obviously they know how to make a business successful. And that's one of the reasons why AEW has gotten to the peaks that we've gotten so quickly, because of that family.
Can I just tell a quick story
about
Chris,
the first time
that first time that Chris came to Sports Illustrated? We were interviewing him there, and we have a lot of big time athletes all the time, Super Bowl champions, World Series champions. I mean, all that stuff. The only time we've had fans lined on the other side of the street from the studio that we could see from the window was when Chris Jericho was there. It was amazing. I can't imagine what it's like. You go to a football game, they must be screaming for you.
Well, I mean, like I said, that's one cool thing about wrestling fans, rock and roll fans, and Chris Jericho fans, is that they're very loyal. And the one thing I've done pretty well over the years is kind of build my brand. It's not just wrestling. It's not just Fozzy or podcasting or cruises or books. It's kind of a combination of all those things. So I'm pretty fortunate whenever I come to do a show or a signing or an appearance that I got a great group of people that show up to say hi and shoot the breeze for a little bit. And I appreciate that. I never take it for granted, that's for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. And Chris, I mentioned about the connection that the AEW, that your company has already forged with the wrestling fan. How about you individually? In terms of, being committed, selling it, Le Champion, everything that you've done, but the different phases you've gone through, in your career. How about that relationship and building that relationship with the wrestling fan and the work that it takes to do it?
Well, like I said, it's not just wrestling for me. It's entertainment all across the board. And I think that's one of the reasons why I have a great fan base. And why we're talking about Le Champion and a little bit of bubbly and all these different things. It's just fun. Like you mentioned, and whether you like wrestling, music, whatever you're into, so am I, sort of thing. I've got a lot of interests, and I really, I never do anything, for financial reasons. I do things that I feel are cool, and I do things that I feel that the people that follow me will appreciate, the people that kind of live vicariously through me as far as like, oh my gosh, see what Jericho did now, or we're just talking about the Jericho cruise. It took me 3 years to get this cruise up and running, and now here we are getting ready for number 3, Lord willing, in February of next year, and it's become a thing to where people are like, we can't wait for the next cruise. Thank you so much for putting this together. And I like doing stuff like that because, I can't build a cabinet worth a damn. I'm terrible at landscaping. I can't build anything. I can't repair your car. But what I can do is I can entertain you. And that's my job, especially in a time like this with the pandemic going on. This is what we do, is take people's minds off their problems. If it's for an hour or 2 hours or 20 minutes or 5 minutes, if you're listening to a Fozzy song or whatever it may be. And I take great pride and great responsibility in that. So I don't ever want to do anything that comes across as forced or that comes across as fake, because I think people wouldn't appreciate that. And I know I wouldn't either. So I'm always kind of thinking of what can I do that would be cool that people who enjoy my work would think, oh, that's awesome that you're doing this. You know, during the pandemic, I started doing the Saturday night special on Facebook Live and YouTube Live because I know that people are just sitting at home not doing anything, and I know this because I'm one of them. So what can I do to help everybody? Well, let's get online and do a shoot the breeze for an hour and have some drinks and ask some questions and sing some songs. And, you know, it's been a huge success because there's millions of people that are looking for something to do and come hang out with me for an hour. So there's always those things that I'm thinking of to try and keep people engaged and connected with not just me, but with AEW and Fozzy and everything that I'm involved with.
You know, Chris, your dad's a former Ranger. You know, talk a little bit about that experience. Huge hockey fan you are?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's in my blood. So I was born in Manhasset in Long Island because that's where the Rangers used to live. My dad played for the Rangers from 70 to 75. He was in the NHL for 10 years. You know, old-time hockey, right? So I basically grew up in the Garden. I remember being like 4 or 5 years old, 3 years old, watching my dad play in Madison Square Garden. I can probably even pinpoint exactly where I was sitting because I remember the view that I had of the ice. I used to get mad at him whenever he was skating down the ice with the puck because he didn't look up and wave at me. I always just wanted to just look up and wave at me, you know. And then, you know,
Chris,
here we
if
go.
we were therapists, we're going to draw a line from that to, you know, performing in front of sold-out arenas, but that's not really our area of expertise.
Well, it's funny because my exact 25th anniversary in the wrestling business, October 3rd, 2015, we had a show in Madison Square Garden. So it was just kind of a cool full circle moment to be in this arena where I kind of grew up in, and here I am, you know, all these years later, having my 25th anniversary in that same arena. You know, the most famous arena in the world for sure.
And Chris Jericho is our mystery guest today. A fantastic mystery guest, and the line that will live on is way cooler than Seth Davis, which is hilarious. But the voice, I guess, just sounded a little bit like that. You know, with I talked to you before about, you know, the cons, and you talked about how you started out a new wrestling outfit. There's been so few of them that have ever been able to, you know, really take to cut into WWE. What gave you the trust? You know, we talked to JR not too long ago, Chris. I mean, what gave you the trust that this wasn't going to be like other outfits that have come and gone?
Well, obviously, you never know for sure, but what gave me the trust was there's 3 things you need to start a wrestling company at a high level, right? Because we've seen them come, we've seen them go, and it's just the way it is. But we had those 3 things, and one is money. Obviously, the Khan family are multi-billionaires, and they run many different businesses, so they have the financial backing that you need. 2, you need a great television deal, and we had that with TNT, which is, you know, like I said, one of the biggest cable networks in the world. And then number 3, and also TNT is committed to us, which is also important as well. And number 3, you need 6 to 8 legit main event talents who aren't overexposed, and that's the hardest part. But what we had was, I mentioned, you know, Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega and Cody, Hangman Page, guys like that, and then you had a Chris Jericho. All of us were working around the world. I had been gone from the WWE for 2 years at that point in time. So, and I also had a really big buzz amongst hardcore fans because I've been doing some work in Japan, which really kind of reopened my passion for creativity within wrestling. So you had those guys that all of us knew we can go and get over with the fans and put on entertaining shows. And all of our contracts just happened to be up at the same time. So you had all of these things happening, all the stars aligned and all the fruit lined up on the machine, and we just had everything kind of in our favor, and that's when it was time to pull the trigger. And as a result, here we are, you know. And also, too, we knew once the show started, like I mentioned to you earlier, we needed to build stars, and we needed to build them quickly. And there's only one way to do that: feature them in top positions and treat them like stars, and suddenly people treat them like stars and accept them as well. So all of those things came together very, very perfectly to put Dynamite on the map and AEW on the map. And you know, we were steamrolling up until you know the virus came. And that's fine. I mean, it is what it is. None of us can control it.
Sure.
And we just continue to put on shows every week. Our shows have been great during this lockdown. So we just have to continue doing a great product, and then when the time comes, we can go back to the arenas and pick up where we left off.
Chris, even with all that laying out the way that it did, right, and maybe there being an avenue for the wrestling fan to get more wrestling, did you guys feel like there was a softening in the strength of the WWE that you guys could take advantage of?
I mean, once again, we never looked at this as competition. You know, we announced our show on Wednesdays on TNT, and then afterwards they announced NXT opposing us, which is fine. We don't know what NXT is doing during our show. We don't care. We're worried about AEW. And
sure.
Whatever WWE is doing, once again, they're a monster. They're a juggernaut. They are the WWE. But I think there is a segment of the population, and we can see that by the ratings that we're drawing and the people that we're drawing to the arenas, that wanted something different. They wanted an option. They wanted an alternative. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, I love Iron Maiden, but it's great to have Judas Priest around too sometimes. You know, Beatles and Stones, or Pepsi and Coca-Cola. Like, I think when you have one company of anything that's monopolized, it has a monopoly, it just does kind of get a little bit stale. And I think the best thing for the whole wrestling business and for WWE and for all of their fans and our fans was just AEW's existence, because now you have an alternative and another option. And because we came out of the gate so quickly, now we are kind of a competition, I guess you would say. I know that WWE, they feel that way, and I guess we do too, but we're just worried about us.
Sure.
What can we do to get better, and what can we do to strengthen our storylines, increase our fan base? And I think if it's because of that we are increasing in all aspects, because we just care about AEW and what we can do to do better, not what anybody else is doing or softening or doing worse or whatever you might say.
Chris Jericho is our mystery guest. Amazing. And Chris, when you were talking about, going to Japan, I remember you telling me once that, like, you got as much of a charge from doing, like, house shows in Japan that no one, very few people would ever see, back here in the United States, or, were not televised, that you got just from being in an arena with, like, 20,000 people. And, one of the things I thought was maybe going to happen when you took the crowds away from the wrestling outfits was that there was going to be this sort of pressure to make the stunt, like the athletic moves, to make the moves just bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm curious if you felt that at all, if any of the performers, athletes, if you guys have felt the need that without the crowd there, that you need to make these moves like even bigger.
Well, I mean, it's actually kind of the opposite, because one of the biggest things about pro wrestling is the audience. I mean, it's like doing stand-up comedy with nobody in the crowd.
Right.
It's good, but you're not getting that reaction, which gives you some extra fire and some extra swagger. So doing more moves and more, table breaks or whatever, that's not the answer to me. The answer is to do things. You have to adapt to what's going on, right? So I think it's to be more. You have to be smart, maybe more character work, maybe more outside of the arena work, maybe different types of matches. I know for me, when we decided to tape 4 weeks of AEW, before we really knew what states were going to be open and what states are going to be closed and what was going to even happen, I said, well, let me do the commentary, because we didn't have Jim Ross available for travel reasons, and, Jim doesn't need to be traveling throughout all this at that point. So let me do the commentary, and I can provide some energy to the show, because you have guys and girls working very hard and very minimal people in the crowd. We had 8 other wrestlers spaced out to the venue, whatever the hell we had. So if I can go out there and be a little bit obnoxious, oh, look at this guy, what are you talking about? I can kind of fill in the blanks when there's no sound, which has the appearance of there being a lot of energy and a lot of chaos going on. That's normally provided by the audience. We don't have it, so I thought, well, let me give it a shot and see if I can do that. I think, that's how I was able to adapt to this. And then we also created a weekly segment called the Bubbly Bunch, where we can all, the 5 guys from the inner circle, we can all film from home and then put it all together and edit together kind of these cool little pieces. And there's one actually on tonight that's the best one yet, with 18 different people in it. We got Rock and Roll Hall of Famers, and we got Hollywood star Boulevard star holders on there, and pop culture icons, and I just was able to put together this really cool piece with, once again, everybody's at home. So anybody that I knew that I could think of, what else do they have to do? They can't say, well, I'm sorry, I'm shooting today, or I'm recording, or everyone's just at home looking for something to do. So we're taking advantage of the situation that we're all in. We're not ignoring it. We're not pretending that there's a crowd there, because there isn't. And we all know why there isn't, so there's no reason to not bring that up in the discussion. There's a pandemic, there's a coronavirus, there's no one in the crowd, so let's work together to provide the best entertainment we can for everybody who's sitting at home and working from home that go, oh my gosh, it's Wednesday night, Diamond is on tonight, what do they got going on? And we're providing some cool stuff for you to enjoy. So, like I said, all of that stuff is happening, and we're just taking advantage of it and doing the best we can to adapt.
Smart. I mean, it really is smart, Chris. And, I'm curious, tell us a little bit about, your band Fozzy, right? You got the intro song, Judas. When fans are in attendance, they love it, they sing it. Talk about that intro song, the development of that song, the connection with the fan and your band.
Yeah, I mean, once again, Judas was kind of the elusive hit single that took us to a completely different level. That was our first top 10 hit, and we've got, 3 top 10 hits now and 5 top 30s because of Judas. And I started using it in Japan as ring music because I needed a song, and it just really worked. It felt the vibe of my character, and I felt the dynamics of the song were a great entrance tune. So when I came to AEW, I was like, well, let me see if I can use that. So, you go through the hoops to get the rights and all that other stuff, and then suddenly, when we were on the Jericho cruise, the Rock and Wrestling Rager at Sea, a few months ago, we filmed an episode of Dynamite on the ship. And suddenly everyone in the crowd just started singing the lyrics when the music stopped. And I just kind of stood there and was like, this is really cool, because this is what we're always looking for, as performers. Those are organic moments where people are enjoying something and being a part of something, and they did it on their own. So then the next week, I just said to the commentators, to Jim Ross and the guys, and I said to the production people, pull the song, and when you pull the song, pull it a little bit earlier, and don't play another ring entrance after it. Let's leave it for a bit. And to the announcers, I said, let's not talk over it. Let's just see what happens. And once again, everyone's singing all the lyrics to Judas again. And next thing you know, it's a thing. Every single week when I come to the ring, everyone's singing Judas. And once again, for the no people shows, I'll find somebody, a cameraman, or I had Sammy Guevara sing it one time. I'm going to continue it, except for it's not, 10,000 people singing it. It'll be one. But the sentiment is still there, and the tradition will continue. And once again, we created something, well, we didn't. The fans created something organic that will probably last until the day I stop doing this.
Chris, a couple quickies before we let you go, right? Number one, best match that you've ever been a part of?
It's hard to say. There's been a lot of them. I really enjoyed. I had a ladder match with Shawn Michaels in 2009. That was a classic to me. I had a great match with Kenny Omega at the Tokyo Dome a few years ago. I had a great match this year at the Tokyo Dome with Tanahashi, which I really enjoyed. I love the match I had with Moxley for the AEW Championship. The match I had with Cody for the AEW Championship was amazing. There's been so many of them, but those are the ones that kind of pop into my head right away.
Which wrestlers did you look at that you were a huge fan of when you were a young wrestler in the industry?
Well, Hulk Hogan was the big one. That was number one for me. And then as I started thinking about becoming a wrestler, the 3 guys that were kind of the magical triumvirate was Owen Hart, Ricky Steamboat, and Shawn Michaels, because I could tell they were all guys that were my size that could really do a lot of cool stuff. And I kind of was really, really pulled towards those guys. I also really was a big Macho Man Randy Savage fan as well.
And do you think you would have developed into the wrestler you are now, personality you are now? Obviously, you've got a distinct personality. That comes natural, and you're an entertainer. Without your experience in the ECW?
In ECW?
Yeah.
I was only there for a short time. It's funny because people always say, John was ECW, but I really was only there for 22 matches. which is a very short period of time, over 6 months.
But those were tough matches, were they not?
Yeah, they were. They were tough, but it's not like you would go in there and you get the crap kicked at you. It was just a stronger style of wrestling. But you got to remember, I had been working in Japan at that point in time for
Sure.
2 years, so that's the strongest style of wrestling you can have. So ECW is kind of a combination of that. But also, I wasn't doing the hardcore matches or the barbed matches. I mean, I was in there with Shane Douglas and Too Cold Scorpio and guys like that, Pitbull #2, who were just great workers. I mean, Cactus Jack and those type of guys. So my experience in ECW was just great matches. So it was hard, but not any harder than any great matches. It was a great place to get some. I'll tell you what was great for ECW that did help me a lot was getting the exposure on national television in a company that was very hot at the time. And that kind of got the word out about me within the United States because I had a big name in Mexico, I had a big name in Japan, but this was the first kind of real exposure in the United States that led me to kind of get signed by WCW, which led me to get signed by WWF. So everything leads to the next, and ECW was a very important part of the ascension of Chris Jericho for sure.
Hey, Chris, we appreciate all the time.
Chris,
fantastic.
thank you.
Continued success in the AEW. You're such an entertainer, and you're a brilliant wrestler, and we appreciate the time this afternoon.
I appreciate it, guys, and I was glad to be the mysterious Chris Jericho, and hopefully we'll see you guys in the New York market very soon. We want to come there, and we have lots of people that want to see us, so when all of this is said and done, we will be there to rock with you guys. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, well, hopefully that happens. July 22nd is the rescheduled date, and we hope that we're all sort of back to normal by then, or as normal as we can be. Of course, you can watch AEW tonight, 8 p.m. It's on TNT. And Chris Jericho, let's jump in.
We'll invite the guy that I said I was cooler than. Was his name Seth Davies?
Seth Davis from College Hoops.
Is a College Hoops writer, and there's this big news with the NCAA today. I don't know, Chris. I apologize.
He could be the Fonz. I don't even know who it is, and I said I was much cooler than him, so he could be much cooler than me. So just know I didn't know. I thought you said Seth Rogen at first. And I was like, what? Well, that sounds like Seth Rogen.
It worked. It worked both ways, actually. It did.
Thanks, guys. See you soon.
You got it, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
He's great.